What's come to talk about is chapter 18 of Jesus, a New Covenant. Trust. Yeah, it came in this morning too. I was talking about it. Obviously, I must need that talk because it's coming again. And it's interesting because he starts out the chapter saying trust is completely unknown to you in your natural state. In the light of divine being and honesty of God, is trust needed by the light? The light is trust. It's not, we use trust like a verb. See, I trust you. That's an immediate cause separate from effect. Because there's two. So there are two, whenever we're talking about trust, and it seems to be about that there's someone else to trust in, then it's otherness. See, there's already two. Yet the Holy Spirit, love uses trust. It's helpful. It's a helpful concept. You can ask Jesus, is trust a concept? It's a helpful concept. I love that where he's saying it's a little compass that points up to infinite. That's just so beautiful. That trust. It's always pointing to our divine nature. It can't go out because there's no one for it to go out to. It's here. It's presence. The consciousness likes words like you're trustworthy. You are worthy of my trust. See, there's two. So Lucian, thank you for asking a question. In these sessions, we just contemplate. But if you have a question, feel free to text it to me, and then we'll try to answer it in a session. We're glad that you joined us today. These are just really deep contemplations on our true identity. So we can ask and to listen to that inner voice within that speaks truth about who we are. Because of the habit and the play of consciousness to deny that we're light, that we're spirit, that we're holy. Yeah, thank you for coming and reaching out. Because we need the brothers that come. Every one of them is needed for us to look to see what's true. To see where we don't trust. That's a bigger problem, Jesus. See how the ego wants to make trust exclusion. I'm going to trust this little set of characters here. This, I'll trust my mom, my dad, my brother, maybe partially. I trust you, sort of. And every sort of trust is an attempt to limit the unlimited. It will limit our experience of ourselves as infinite beings. Because trust in the play of consciousness is one being trusting another, and that makes two. And whenever there's two, it's misery, because there's only one, which is God, infinite light. At first, though, to turn us out from the bubble, see that bubble of pretending God's not here, and we took a little dive into that dream to pretend like God's not living. God is dead, that little pretend separation scenario. And trust is the way, like willingness. Willingness, it points out toward our true nature. Trust would settle every problem now, because trust would show that there are no problems in the infinite light of being. Infinite light doesn't know what a problem is. Thank you, Jesus, for that. Trust is completely unknown to you in your natural state. Trust is what is. I love that. It's not a verb. It's not an active verb. It's seeing what's true. Infinite love is all that is and does not know what trust is. Yet in the world of form, in the belief that form exists, trust points back to yourself with a capital S. It's pointing inward. We're so used to things going outward. I'm going to see who's trustworthy, who's going to show me that I can't trust them. That's how consciousness plays. It's looking for something that's untrustable. Consciousness is a play of untrust. It's looking for proof that the world and the beings around us cannot be trusted. And then it's going to manifest proof that the world is untrustable, that there's something untrustworthy. Trust cannot move out from you to objects or circumstances, although you believe it does. Jesus, do I believe that trust moves, that I can trust in things? Do I have a belief, a desire for experience that I need to trust? You hear when he says, yep. Trust is a desired experience, ask Jesus. Do I desire an experience where I'm untrusting? Yet in the world of form, the belief that form exists, trust points back to yourself. Trust cannot move out from you to objects or circumstances, although you believe it does. The need for trust takes belief, a belief that things are not exactly as they are given by the Father to his Holy Son, divine perfection, whole and unchanged by time and space. So Jesus, every time we're not feeling trust, we're holding on to a belief that we need to trust something. Something's untrustworthy. God is untrustworthy. Do I have a belief that God is untrustworthy? And Jesus is untrustworthy. If we're not following his guidance, then we believe he's untrustworthy. The ego does not know trust, for the ego made the need for trust to deny what is already whole and beyond trust. So see, trust is one of those little breadcrumbs given by Jesus for us to follow back to see actually where we're untrusting, which we don't trust ourselves. We don't believe Jesus is trustable. Let's just ask, Jesus, do I believe you're trustworthy? Do I believe you're 100% trustworthy? We might as well know if we don't think Jesus is trustworthy, has our best interest in hand, in our hearts. Might as well know it and admit it. Jesus, do I trust you 100%? So much love comes when you can say yes. Because that's loving ourselves. When we can love Jesus and trust him 100% and know that the love of the Father is 100% ours, just exactly as we are right now, nothing to do. That's trust. That there's nothing to do to be holy and complete. Thus, trust is a helpful concept when those that with a belief there is something less than wholeness must look beyond this idea that wholeness is not already here to find himself. To see how that little compass of trust just points back to ourselves, like north, the compass pointing north, trust always points back to identity. You can ask Jesus, because everyone who comes here is called by Jesus. Does trust point back to infinite light of being? Jesus says, when you trust, you honor what you already are. That is beautiful, actually. When you trust, you're honoring your holiness. You're honoring that you are holy, whole, and complete as God made you. Thank you, Jesus, for this reminder. That's so beautiful. In this case, trust is necessary to find what is beyond the idea that trust exists. And trust is really necessary. Yes, he's saying it's very necessary in this following Jesus and following divine light, because we're so anti-light. The play of consciousness is so anti-light that we have to trust that voice and step into it and accept the assignments as given by the voice if we don't want to suffer anymore, because we've been trusting the untrustable. We've been trusting a little false idea of who we think we are, rather than seeing that we're infinite being. Oh, the light's here, and going and admitting it and fully embracing it. The play of consciousness is to, I can't trust the light. I can't trust Jesus. I don't want to talk to Jesus. I don't want to talk to God. I'm unworthy to talk to God. That's just the play of consciousness. You're always worthy to talk to God because he made you perfect and he loves you exactly as you are now. There's no better time than now to talk to God. Because the only thing he's going to tell you through Jesus is that you're perfect and that you're love. You are love. You're loved by God and you're love. You're that. To trust what is beyond the idea of a personal identity. That's why trust is so essential, because we're so wound into that thought bubble that we're something unworthy and unlovable by God and unlovable by anyone, and everyone else has more love than the story inside the storyline, that we're not lovable. Trust is required to leapfrog out of that beehive of denial and all that beehive of buzzing thoughts that aren't true. You're not good enough, blah, 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 whatever the beehive of thoughts, and to look outside of that toward the one who knows, to look toward Jesus, to look toward infinite light of being. It's like trust and faith. I love, he talks about faith. It might be in this chapter. It's so beautiful. So it points actually beyond trust. Trust points beyond trust to what doesn't know what trust is, divine light of being. To trust what is beyond the idea of a personal identity brings the mind back to its original state of being. That's what the lessons are. Trusting what is beyond the idea of a personal identity. It's pointing beyond, it's pointing to infinite light. It's pointing beyond separation. So when we say a lesson like today's lesson, and he's pointing to God is my strength, vision is his gift from God. See, we don't believe it at first. Ask Jesus, do I believe God is my strength? We're starting to believe it. Vision is his gift, and we have to believe it. See, it starts with belief. You're believing these higher order thoughts till we see that it's beyond belief. We're beyond belief. Infinite light, love doesn't have any beliefs. It's a belief-free zone. Because a belief is attempt to limit. But Jesus uses these higher order thoughts, higher order beliefs, because he's going, look up. They point up at love, at infinite love. God is my strength. Vision is his gift. In this case, trust is necessary to find what is beyond the idea that trust exists. To trust what is beyond the idea of a personal identity brings the mind back to its original state of being. These lessons are to bring the mind back to original state of being. That's beautiful. God is my strength, vision is my gift. So instead of in the miscreation, these lessons are pointing back to infinite state of being, the natural state. But you notice they don't last very even though you do the lessons 20 times a day, they don't last very long because of the play in consciousness to deny the natural state of being, to dive deeply into that thought ball and feeling and motion bubbles and say, this is me. That like energetic power source into hell, the dive to hell, the fall from grace. It's relished. We want it. You can ask Jesus, Jesus, do I want an experience of falling from grace? He never says no. Because no, you want an experience of falling from grace. That's why you need my help to see how much you want that. And then just to dissolve the desire for that by miracles, by asking for miracles. To trust what is beyond the idea of a personal identity brings the mind back to its original state of being. And so when we're doing the lessons, we're trusting. You can ask Jesus. That's what that is. It's practicing trust. Even if we don't believe that God is my strength, because we believe we need to hide from God. Jesus, do I believe I need to hide from God? Might as well know. Does God need us to hide from him? Does he want us to hide from him? No. But do we relish hiding from God and pretending like, oh, I can't see God. I can't see what the light looks like? That's the play in consciousness, to pretend like we don't know that we're infinite light. This is why trust and faith settle every problem now. Trust is not about a future experience of being safe. Oh, that's so good. Let's look at that. Yeah, that's a good one. So, yeah. So the ego uses the thought of trust. See, I trust you because that's going to give me a better future. You get that? I trust you because that means I'm going to get a better outcome here. No, see, trust doesn't have an outcome. It just is. But the ego uses it. Well, if I can find the right brother to trust, if I trust my attorney, he is going to take care of me. You see, like, I will get something in the future. I will get a better whatever, XYZ in the future because this is somebody I can trust. And that's the play in families. I can see that, like in having like a boyfriend or whatever, like I can trust him. I could see that, or I don't trust him. See that play? Or I can trust every brother and sister that I have. I could hear that. I could hear that. I could trust my brothers and sisters. Now, it's a great thing on one hand to have that kind of openness that we can actually say we trust another being. There's nothing wrong with it. But see how the ego uses trust to choose a little constellation of beings, a family member or teacher, whatever it is. This is the one I can put my trust in. So it becomes exclusionary. No, the kind of trust Jesus is talking about is trust everyone because everyone is you. Because it's infinite. You're infinite light, which is shared by everyone. That is so beautiful. So the ego's version of trust is how to shortchange ourselves by selecting out, okay, this one I can trust and this one I can't trust and this one's going to come get me and this one's not. Do you see that little play? How could we ever rest in peace with that and under our awareness? Trust is not about a future experience of being safe. This is an idea of the ego. Trust is accepting divinity now. That rocks your soul. It's your little socks. That rocks your socks. That's God's version of trust. You know, he has honesty of God. We'll call this trust of God. Trust of God is to trust that God's here right now. No waiting line. You know, you don't have to walk into the store and there's a little, you know, that little number machine and you pull that ticket and then you kind of look over and there's the numbers coming up at what counter to go to. Jesus is going, no waiting. So trust is merely accepting what we are right now. That's easy. Acceptance of light. I'm liking this chapter even more. Trust is accepting divinity now until it is seen that there's no trust needed to be divine being, what is already here. Isn't that glorious? But we need trust. See, we need to trust in Jesus and our brother through as our representative of Jesus. And that's the whole function of these joining buddies to do chapter 20 is really the development of trust, because we're so used to untrusting. But you don't really reap the benefits of trust until you step into it deeply. Till you abjectly refuse to say no to the untrustable, which is personal identity. And you can watch how it plays. We can get curious. Like Muji would say, that is the most unstable state. It's completely unstable. And you'll see the play, because, you know, once you look with Jesus enough, you'll just start to see how untrustable. In 1 minute, it's going to be hopping up, down and going, this is the best thing ever. And the next minute it's going, I got to get the hell out of here. You know, it's not trustworthy, because it's completely an untrustable state. But the play of consciousness is to put all of our trust in the ego. And I just ask them, when we say we're not ready, we're putting all our trust in the ego. Jesus, I'm not ready to see that I'm a divine being. I'm not ready to follow you. We just put the I'm not ready is putting all our trust and faith in hell, actually. Resistance. You know, it plays. We all know it. We've all felt it. The word resistance. I'm resisting. But just, we're sitting in infinite light of being going, I resist. How's that gonna, you know, really, if we look at it carefully, I'm going to resist following Jesus. You are, Jesus is you. You know, he's the symbol of the light of love within you. I'm going to resist Jesus. No, you know, you're just resisting yourself. There's no one out there to resist. That's when it gets funny, when we see what's this little struggle with resistance and Jesus, I'm not ready yet. What? You know, it's hilarious, but I've said it many times myself, so I can relate to it. I don't know if I said I wasn't ready. Probably did. Jesus said, yes, you did. Okay, so I did. I certainly know that resistance came up, you know, that feeling of resistance. But then when you see, it's like a fish swimming in water going, I don't want to be water, and I'm not ready to be in water. You know, it's that ridiculous. That's how ridiculous it is. When someone says, well, I'm just really not ready to follow Jesus. That's a fish saying, I'm not ready to be swimming in water. I don't trust water. That's what, yep, I'm going to resist being in water. I'm going to tell the ocean, look, I know you're there and I know the ocean's there, but I'm going to resist you every way I can. Now, we would just say, look at that little fish, just, you know, just be going, you know, that really, you want to quietly tell them, look, this is not going to work. This is not going to work. Look, come here, little fish. I gotta try to talk to you. No, don't tell me. You won't talk to any other fish. No, I don't want to hear about the ocean. I do not want to hear about water. Don't tell me anything about water. I don't want to know anything about it. I'm going to resist being. That's it. We're surrounded by infinite light of being, because that's all we can be going, well, I'm just really not ready. Come on. What voice is saying that? I'm just not ready to be in the ocean. You know, meanwhile, he's how does he think he's getting his food? It's his food is swimming in the ocean. I'm not having anything to do with water, not one. Oh my gosh, we're funny. Consciousness is funny the way it plays, not to be infinite. Like, you can't get away from light. Just try it. Like I said, you know, go for a really good run, you know, hike to the top of a mountain, whatever you have to do, run as fast as you can, and just look and notice if infinite light's still here. It goes everywhere with you. Well, so when you say you're not ready, for what? It's too late. You're already light. It already happened. You have no control over being light. You're it. I am resisting. Okay. Just see if that resistance is going to shred the light. You know, it's okay. It's not, Jesus isn't, but he's still going to be standing there smiling, going, it's just a bunch of silliness. Somebody pull that fish aside and fill him in. Look, you're in water. That's like going to the next fish. Do you know where the water is? I have been looking all over for water. He's swimming in the ocean. That's what we're doing, pretty much. Just like the fish. And Jesus, I'll just never find the water. I don't know what I'm never going to find water, no matter how far away. They were like little fish doing. Good thing Jesus has a good sense of humor anyway. Oh. Trust is accepting divinity, the light now. It's accepting that we're little fish, pretending to be little fish in an ocean of water. And pretending like we don't see the waters there. Until it's seen that there's no trust needed to be divine being what is already here. No one can awaken from this world without full trust. Let's just ask them if that's true. Yes, we don't have. Well, you have to have full trust. Because it's trust here. It's not trust in other. It's trust of ourselves. See, trust is the allowance for all the no's to come up and be seen as nothing, the no's to divine light, and just go, okay, that's nothing. For untrusting is siding with a sense of limitation and lack. So if without full trust, there's some little untrust, so there's limitation and lack. And so you can be very aware, we can be very aware of light and that there's infinite light, and but if there's these little pockets of untrust, and that's what Jesus is, that's why he's taken us to the desires, and we're talking to Jesus and he brings us down to the desires, because those are the pockets of untrust. We're not trusting, because if we were trusting, we'd be supremely happy all the time. So he's just showing us, I'm going to show you where you do not want miracles. You do not want to release light, inner light, where you do not want to trust. It is an agreement based, a desired experience is something or someone is untrustable and thus unworthy of trust. And we have already discussed that unworthiness is not of the Father. Unworthiness is of the wrong mind and a desired experience to feel unworthy of love. Not trusting is merely the desire to experience lack within. An attempt to convince yourself that you are less than you are. Might as well be honest with Jesus. Jesus is lack of trust, trying to convince myself that I'm less than I am. You can hear the yes. When we're not trusting someone or something, this is really good talk, Jesus. Thank you very much. It's a desire, experience, lack. I don't trust you, Jesus, a desire for experience of lack. I don't want to follow you, Jesus, a desire for experience of lack. In limitation. An attempt to convince yourself that you are less than you are, perfect as God made you. So to be untrusting is to try to convince ourselves that we're less than God made us. This is why trusting in me is to trust in yourself as God made you. It seems like a step, yet it is acceptance of your holiness now. Your brother is the representative in your mind that points back to where you do not trust yourself and find yourself unworthy of all that is given you by the Father. Your brother is the means given by which you recognize your holiness or the desire to deny it. And we know this from A Course because he really points to the brother. Thus, full faith in your brother is necessary, just as faith in me is necessary, as this is trusting yourself. Divinity as given in wholeness from the Father. I really love this chapter. So helpful. This is why it is necessary to look carefully at the desire not to see your brother fully as yourself. Okay, Jesus, I'm going to look. Is there any desire not to see my brother as myself? I'm willing to look. See, the ego avoids seeing this, but the only way to have peace is to see this. As I've said, I laughingly said, when I could see, oh, I'm not a body, but boy, I don't want anybody else not to be a body. That would be too weird, to see myself as spirit, but not seeing it. But it doesn't work that way. It can't. We have to see our brothers as light, infinite light. That's celebration of wholeness. When you do, you will see that you do indeed reject him. And this is a desired experience of rejecting yourself, denying the peace of heaven from yourself now. I mean, this is so helpful. What he's giving us, the gift of our brother in these joining sessions, to see where we deny ourselves. Acceptance is of great value in the reversal of the desire to deny yourself. Infinite love in the absolute sense does not know acceptance or rejection because it is, and thus you in your natural state do not know acceptance either. Just see the light. Does the light have a little dial on it that goes accept? It just is. See, it doesn't accept or reject. It just is. It's isness. I've used the words the Holy Spirit accepts and the ego rejects only to point you toward yourself. So we stop rejecting ourselves. We just cease to reject ourselves. I can assure you the divinity knows neither acceptance nor rejection. It is what is. The wrong mind miscreates the world through rejection of holiness. Thus, the reversal is offered through the term acceptance to point back to the real world, ultimate reality of what is, through acceptance as a means of recognizing and honoring what is already here. So it's just honoring what's here. Light. The ego interprets acceptance as accepting things as less than they are, a sad sacrifice. This is a really good one, because that's a play in consciousness around this word. Well, just accept everything. I'll just accept everything exactly as it is. No, the ego will say that. To accept everything as it is means to accept it as wholly whole and complete. It doesn't mean when you're like, oh, I'll just accept that I'm really upset now. No, it doesn't mean that at all. Or you just accept whatever's arising in consciousness. No, that's denial of divine power. You can ask Jesus. Jesus, does acceptance in the way you're talking about mean I just accept whatever arises in consciousness? No, because you miscreated, then you're accepting your miscreation. You're accepting your desires. You're accepting that you desire things. From the standpoint of accepting is keeping the ball rolling with desire. The wrong mind miscreates the world through rejection of holiness. Thus, the reversal is offered through the termed acceptance to point back to the real world, ultimate reality of what is. Through acceptance is a means of recognizing and honoring what is already here. We're just honoring what's here already and ceasing to give it the boot out of our awareness. Boot love. The ego interprets acceptance as accepting things as less than they are, a sad sacrifice. Like the ego will accept unhappiness. Well, I'm unhappy, I just accept that. Do you see how that plays, that term, acceptance? I'll just accept death. You might as well say that. I'll just accept what the ego says. I'll just follow fear around like a puppy. That's the ego's version of acceptance, to keep its little fiefdom in place. Emotions must be accepted. I accept that I'm upset. No. I accept that I'm denying, I have a desire for an experience of emotions. That can be accepted. I have a desire to experience these emotions, to deny I'm wholly, whole, and complete. That's honesty of God. Emotions don't have to be accepted. Ask Jesus. I mean, that's not to judge them. That's not to, it's just see that below emotions are thoughts and beliefs, and those are powered by desire. So if you go to desire, no emotions can stand. Pain and guilt must be accepted. See, that's the way ego works. You have to accept pain and guilt. Ask Jesus, do I need to accept pain and guilt? No, they're completely unnatural. See, the ego makes acceptance of the unnatural and pretend like it's true. This form of acceptance has nothing to do with you as divine being. Thank you, Jesus, for saying that. This is rejecting divine grace under the disguise of acceptance. This is accepting less than who you are and thus rejection of divine being. You know, and there are a lot of spiritual, I'm just going to ask Jesus direct, just correct me, Jesus. A lot of these spiritual traditions, oh, you just, just see it's what is, and whatever arising is what is. No, whatever's arising is desired experience. And if you believe it and you desire it, you'll experience it. And he's demonstrating the power of infinite mind to choose again, to make another choice. It's beautiful, powerful. Wow, Jesus, thank you for this dive into trust. Very helpful. All the way, Jesus, all the way. We love you. Thank you for joining us, Maybe we'll have a joining in light session coming up here soon. It's so beautiful to hear what Jesus is telling all of you. Thank you, Dyra, for translating. Thank you for the little blue heart.